Welcome to the Nourishment Mindset Podcast, your guide to good food, good health, and a good life. And now, here's your host, Nutrition Network advisor and author of The Nourishment Mindset, Dixie Huey.
Y'all, welcome to or back to the Nourishment Mindset Podcast. Here, as you know, we are all about three main things: real whole foods, straight talk, and the pleasures of the table. Today, I have a guest that I am absolutely honored to be talking to. Those of you who've listened to me for a while know, I really don't give a hoot about what people would call traditional celebrities, but food celebrities are my thing. And this woman is a dynamo. She's the author of a number of books, including her tome, Nourishing Traditions. And here's my favorite part: the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and diet Dictocrats. I love the alliteration, Sally. She's a champion of real foods, honored traditions. Better than that, y'all, she's a badass. She's got integrity and grit, a no-nonsense approach, and I love your laugh. So, Sally, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, if some of my listeners I know already know about the Weston A Foundation because I have talked about you all numerous times. But if anyone out there does not know, Sally is definitely going to talk about this today. But I will let you know from my perspective, having joined, when did I become a member? I'm going to guess 2018, 2019, another lifetime ago, living in Washington State, finally discovering real foods 5 years after I gave birth. Recovering my own health. I would call the Weston Price Foundation a worldwide network of real food enthusiasts. So no matter where you go, even when I'm at our home in France, there is a chapter.
Yeah, we have a chapter in France. That's right.
It's amazing. And this smarty here has degrees from Stanford, UCLA. We both parle français, madame. And I want to get into things. I want to rip the Band-Aid right off. So as you heard, 3 nourishment mindset values: real whole foods, straight talk, pleasures of the table. I would love to get into your mission at the Weston Price Foundation and why is it more important than ever right now?
Yes, it's the only way to resolve our health crisis, except for stopping vaccinating, but that's a different subject. Yes, so we need to get back to the foods that nourished our ancestors. Our foundation is named after Weston Price, who studied traditional people in the 30s and 40s and found beautiful, healthy people. And then he looked at their diets. And these diets were very, very high in vitamins and minerals, and especially the vitamins that you get from certain what they called sacred foods that were basically rich in animal fats. So butter, the fats of animals, organ meats, certain types of seafoods. They're very high in vitamins A, D, and K, and these are the basis of good health. We actually can't absorb minerals unless we have these vitamins. That's why you put butter on your vegetables and cream in your soup. That's why you eat your meat with the fat and the chicken with the skin, and that's why traditional cultures never ate lean meat and always sought out the fattest animals, because these fats are absolutely essential to our health. And of course, this is the exact opposite of what we've been taught for so many years. The dietary guidelines are a death diet. They don't kill you immediately, they kill you slowly, and especially by causing infertility. So we have weaker people and fewer people with every generation. It's really quite tragic, and it's the change has to happen one family at a time, one person at a time, and they just see the light and change the way they eat. So the foundation teaches these fundamentals and also helps people find the food. We have a big network of local chapters. You're looking for raw milk, which I should have included in that list, by the way, raw whole milk. You're looking for pastured eggs for farmers raising beef on pasture. our chapter leaders can help you find these things.
Well, and I love that very practical application. There are so many ways of eating, and people want to like put themselves in this camp or that keto and carnivore and all this stuff. And one of the things I love about the Weston Price Foundation is, for me, it is the most broad, sort of relaxed, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, let's not demonize particular foods unless they're ultra processed garbage. But like
Yes, right.
things like bread is not the enemy, right?
Bread is not the enemy if it's prepared correctly and if it's organic. It actually has kind of become the enemy today because they spray all the wheat with glyphosate just before harvest. And that's why people have so many problems with wheat. But we don't demonize any food group, and with proper choice and proper preparation, all these wonderful foods can be part of the diet.
And I love it because I've tried, I mean, I used to work for Verta, right? So I saw how limiting carbohydrates could help resolve diabetes, but I also saw how challenging it could be just from a realistic standpoint to
And also, if you limit carbs too much, you get thyroid problems. So there's, yeah.
Currently working on resolving that. So there you have it. I must share with you something that my boys are still laughing about / making fun of me. Last night we watched the movie about the pilots. I believe it was in the 60s, but started the space program. I think it was called The Right Stuff.
The Right Stuff, yes.
And when the Aboriginal man came on, I said, pause it. I said, look at those jaws, his teeth, look at the nose, it breathes. And they're like, you were so annoying, Mom. But how often do you see that in a movie? You know, you can look at Weston Price's book and see those images of a properly formed jaw, but it's rare to see.
Well, we're seeing it now in the babies born to our parents who are eating this way, preparing for pregnancy with really nutrient-dense foods, and not vaccinating, breastfeeding, or using a raw milk formula. And we're seeing beautiful jaws in these babies, beautiful round faces. They won't need braces. They won't have sleep apnea. They'll be able to breathe with their mouths closed. They hit all their milestones. They're bright, cheerful. I mean, they're just a wonderful gift to these families. But it's up to the parents. This doesn't happen automatically anymore, the way it does in primitive cultures. And it's up to the parents to know what they're doing.
And it's reclaiming the traditions, right?
Yes.
On my own family, and you would be proud.
Kind of from a higher level. We've lost them. We've lost our intuition about diet. And now we've come around. We see that we need this same diet, but it's from a higher level.
Yep. We were in the kitchen this afternoon with some chicken liver mousse.
Oh, I had some actually.
Right? My son said he liked it. I have been after him for quite a while to try it, and I got him to do it by putting a little bit of organic raspberry preserves on it. And he said to me on the second cracker, homemade, of course, Mom, I don't need the preserves. I actually like the taste.
Oh, good.
This is the last hurdle.
Well, the French are the great lovers of liver, and they do it so well. And I discovered I had never eaten liver till I was a student in Paris, or a student in France. And when I discovered this thing called terrine, and I thought terrine might be some kind of soup or something, but I ordered it, and it was this big piece of cold meatloaf on my plate, but full of liver. And once I ate that, I couldn't stop. My body needed it so much.
Yes, it's incredible. So offline, we were talking about the annual conference, which was in Orlando. And I want to mention that so that Nourishment Mindset listeners can put this on their calendar. You mentioned you're already working on it. So is it always in the fall?
It's always in the fall. This year, it's October 17th through 19th in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And we have some really fabulous speakers this year, including Mark and Sam Bailey, who've been beating the drum for, hey, it's not viruses that cause our disease. They've never found a virus. So they will be there, and lots of other celebrities from the nutrition world.
My kind of celebrities. So I was blown away by the sheer number of attendees, but also how far people traveled
Yes.
to come there.
Yeah, 70% of our people come by plane. So it doesn't really matter where we have the conference. As long as there's an airport nearby.
So I'd like to put it in rewind, to use a sort of 80s, 90s term. How have you seen the Price Foundation, Weston A. Price Foundation, grow over the years? Go back to your first conference. I mean, has it been organic and over time? Do you have
Yeah, it's just slow and steady. We've had very slow and steady rise in membership, and we're actually on a big membership campaign this year. Since it's 2025 and it's also our 25th year and our 25th conference, we're trying to get to 2,500 members, 25,000 members.
I should say, you certainly have that.
Yeah. So we're at 16, so we have a ways to go before October. But yes, so for your listeners, our website is westonaprice.org. And there's lots of things that take you to membership. Members get our quarterly journal, a lot of very interesting reading materials. They get our action alerts and our announcements, and they become part of our family.
And it's a low price. I don't remember off the top of my head.
$40.
But for 4 journals a year,
Yeah.
the access, and my favorite part, and this is not just me buttering you up because you agreed to come on the Nourishment Mindset. I love the Caustic Commentary. That's the straight talk page.
That's my favorite thing to do. To get all my kind of bitterness.
Yeah, just get it out. We got to all have a release.
It's really, when you look at what's happened to our food supply and to our people, it hasn't just happened here, it's happened worldwide. It's happened in France, it's happened in Russia, happened in India, it's Africa, the invasion of the processed foods, and with it, the misinformation.
Yeah, real misinformation.
You think, well, it doesn't matter if I eat processed foods. So
yeah,
it really, you can't think about it too much because it makes you so angry.
It does. And then, but the way that you funnel the energy and give members like me, a place to learn, a place to say, okay, I'm doing what I can.
Right.
Every step forward. I always say this to my clients, every step forward, you're farther away from
where you were
trying to leave behind. And it's okay. It doesn't all have to happen.
It doesn't. One of the things I tell people is, let's just say you're new to this, you don't know how to cook, and it just seems overwhelming. I say the first thing is learn to make salad dressing. That in yourself, if you're making salad dressing with vinegar, olive oil, and mustard, and then whatever seasonings you want, it is so much better than anything you can buy.
Yep.
And then the second thing I say is use butter. No margarines, no spreads, no shortenings, no seed oils. Those 2 things alone will make a huge difference in your health.
Totally. And it was you all and Nina Teichels who gave me permission to eat butter.
And Nina's going to be a speaker at the conference.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I adore her. Adore. Excellent. So some years ago, I emailed you, and I was very honored that you emailed back. And I had this idea about, what if, you called raw milk real milk? And I was being a PR person. I spent 20 years in wine and food PR. I have found a source here in the Naples area, which I buy raw milk for pet consumption.
Yes. Florida's big pet milk state.
Right. Yeah. My dog, he actually does love, it's pretty interesting. Travis is a Newfoundland. He loves this pet milk for the raw milk for pet consumption. He will not drink other milk.
Of course not. They know it's not a food. They know it's not a food.
Incredible. And that's just so enlightening to watch a dog look at 2 bowls and choose one.
Yeah.
But anyway,
when we started, raw milk was available in 27 states, and there were about 30 sources in the whole United States. Now we're up to 47 states, and there's thousands and thousands of sources of raw milk now. It's everywhere.
My dad was a milkman, which
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
if that exists, but I remember him telling me stories of how he would deliver to the ice box outside and take away the bottles. And how did we get so far away from that, right? I mean, refrigeration helped, right? But you tell people about what I call real milk and you all
Mhm.
call real milk and raw milk. Like, why did that become a weird thing? That's how nature.
Well, it was the milk companies decided to pasteurize and basically created a monopoly. And they made it illegal to sell milk directly, which is basically Marxism, and just relentless propaganda about how wonderful pasteurization was. And of course, what we've seen is the consumption of milk has declined, and fewer people can drink it. Most people are quite allergic to it. And pasteurized milk now causes 20 to 30 deaths from anaphylactic shock every year.
Oh,
They never tell you about that.
no, they don't.
Yeah. And the thing is, we have the technology today. We have refrigeration, on-farm testing. I mean, we produce raw milk on our farm. We test every batch. It's easy. It's not expensive. We have a national cold chain, very rapid transportation. We can get raw milk to any child in the country, and even better if that raw milk is produced locally.
And to me, it's the perfect example of so many things that are challenging or wrong with our food system. Is here you take this thing, the way God or nature, or however you want to think about it, made it, and we're mucking with it. And then
Yeah.
we're demonizing nature. It doesn't, it's not living in harmony. It's
Well, and the other thing that happened is they went to the confinement system, which is filthy, absolutely filthy. I mean, these cows are breathing in fecal material all day long. And I mean, there's just manure everywhere. And you sort of have to pasteurize that kind of milk. So part of it is getting our cows outside on grass again, smaller farms. So you have less, smaller farms are going to be cleaner farms. So, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot in the last 40 years. And what we've learned is that pasteurization is not the way to go for many reasons, but mainly for health.
So yay to real raw milk. If
Yes.
y'all want to find a source, Sally has said you can go to the Weston A. Price Foundation.
Well, actually, we have a second website called realmilk.com.
There you go.
And you can put your zip code in and find it near you.
Perfect. So try it out. I had someone in my house 2 weeks ago who, when I first mentioned this to her, sent me some emojis that were rather scary, and she actually drank some.
Oh, well,
A
good.
couple years
Good.
later, I said, "All right, you've come around. Good job." I think she's still alive.
Yeah.
Right?
This is so ridiculous to say
Yep.
that this raw milk is deadly dangerous. I mean, there's at least 20 million raw milk drinkers in the United States. The biggest dairy in California is a raw milk dairy, and they're selling millions of servings a year. Nobody's getting sick.
No.
I mean, they almost have to make things up to make it seem like there's a danger.
Exactly. And it just makes sense at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk with you about something. In general, I try not to be a regrets person, right? That doesn't serve us super well, but I will admit all about the straight talk on the nourishment mindset. I weaned my son too early, about 10 months,
Well, that's not too early.
off my milk,
Yeah,
but
but that's not too early. No.
okay, well, I can at least let that one go. Thank you, Seth.
Yes, yes.
But I used for a few weeks a formula that I thought was the healthy stuff
Yeah.
to help me with that. And then I met the Weston Price Foundation and I realized, oh my goodness. So can we just talk? Today I have a healthy 11-year-old who just admitted that he liked chicken liver mousse. But I think it's important to spread the message, especially with the infertility. If you have a child that you were able to bring in this world, wonderful. Why is formula something that people need to hit the eject button on?
So, mother's milk, here's one of the main reasons. So, mother's milk is very high in cholesterol. The baby cannot make cholesterol. He's not old enough, and yet he needs it very badly to produce hormones. And baby boys produce as much testosterone for the first 6 months as an adult male. This programs them to express male characteristics at puberty, which I think all moms want to have happen. And also, you need that cholesterol to build their brains. They're adding, tens of thousands of brain cells every day. You need that cholesterol to seal the gut, so there's good digestion. You actually need that cholesterol for every cell in the body. So if you can't so mother's milk provides this cholesterol and has special enzymes to ensure that 100% of the cholesterol is absorbed. If you look at a milk replacer for animals, the third ingredient is animal fat, because the vets know this. These animals need cholesterol to grow and thrive. You look at the list of ingredients on human formula, it's skim milk, vegetable oils, and sugar, of course. There's no cholesterol in this formula. And this is a time when babies absolutely need cholesterol. So no wonder we're ending up with children who are confused about what sex they are, children who can't digest anything, children who have attention deficit disorder. They're not getting what they need in that formula. And, we've got a lot of changes coming in our country, I hope. But I think one of them should be to make it an absolute requirement that formula should contain whole milk. You may ask yourself, why doesn't it contain whole? Why doesn't the formula industry, they know this, why don't they put whole milk in the formula? And I can tell you why. Because they've figured out, see, the butter fat is the most valuable part of the milk. It's what's needed most in the economy. And they figured out that they can put this butter fat in ice cream and make at least 5 times more for it than if they give it to growing children. Why waste it on growing children, right? And so basically the decisions about how we feed our precious children are being made by accountants. And as a nation, we need to be on our knees in sackcloth and ashes that we have allowed this to happen. That anyone is telling a mother that formula is okay, because it's absolutely not. Now, a lot of moms can't breastfeed, have to go back to work. I'm very sympathetic to this. I had a lot of trouble breastfeeding my own children.
Me too. Thank you for that pump.
Yeah, and we have a formula. It's a homemade baby formula based on raw milk, which has added cream or high vitamin butter oil for added cholesterol. And I can tell you that formula works beautifully. Sometimes it works, I hate to say this, but sometimes it works better than mother's milk because she's maybe exhausted or not as well nourished as she could be.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I remember reading that in one of these, the journals are packed full of information. It takes me, it's a good thing it's quarterly, because it's so well cited and it's so detailed. It's really almost like a scientific journal more. It's certainly
the front part is more scientific and the back part is supposed to be more practical.
This is where I heard of this alternative and I thought, gosh, if I'd only joined sooner. So anyone out there who, most of my listeners, I would say, are in the kind of middle age, done with having children, that sort of thing. But I will say that there are grandchildren maybe on the way.
Yeah, that's right.
To know, hopefully, right? Grandmas, right. Future grandmas. So
I have 5 grandchildren, and I'd say I think it was maybe 3 of them had some of the formula. All the moms breastfed, but they struggled with it and didn't have enough milk. So the formula just saves a day.
Wonderful. It's great to know that there's an alternative out there. It's beautiful. So I'd love to talk about the foundation's 50% pledge. I think this is a beautiful thing. I have a farm share at a local farm here in Naples. I pick it up every Saturday at the market. Talk to us about that pledge.
Okay, so in the old days in college, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you often took the pledge, and that pledge was that you weren't going to drink alcohol. And that was a really big thing in the colleges in those days. In fact, women's right to vote came very late in America because it was all mixed up with the temperance movement, and the politicians didn't want to give it to women because they thought they wouldn't be able to drink anymore. So, but
that one.
yeah. So let's see, where was I?
We were talking about the 50%
Oh, the
pledge.
50%. So we have a new kind of pledge. We call it the 50% pledge, and we want everyone to take the pledge, okay? And that is that you will spend 50% of your food dollar on direct sales, no middleman, to farmers, dairymen, meat producers, egg producers, bread makers, whatever. So 50% you're spending locally in direct sales. And the other 50%, this is not an all or nothing. The other 50%, you can celebrate how small the world has become. And we can eat pineapple and rice and bananas or whatever you want.
Anytime of year.
But even if 10% of the population did that 50%, we'd have a different kind of economy.
Voting with your dollars. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And just to be able, I love having the exchange with
yes,
farmer,
know your farmer. Yes.
And what do you think I should choose from my farm share? And it's a great way also for people with kids, grandkids, to introduce kids to real food.
Yes.
What a farmer is and valuing that relationship. So I see my role as a mom of an 11-year-old, this is critical stuff because I want Fletcher to be able to pass this down, keep this in his life, pass it down to his family, because it's a tradition, right? We have to reclaim this tradition to reclaim our health.
Right. Yeah. So there's lots of ways to do it. We have deliveries, we have online ordering, we have stores that you can go to, we can pick ups, drop-offs. One of the first drop-offs was in our garage in Washington, D.C., Amish farmer bringing raw milk in, and it grew to 100 people almost overnight. And he ended up with 13 drop-offs. He's retired now, but he became a wealthy man, which I love to see. I love to see farmers make money.
Right? What a new concept.
Yeah, right.
That at the conference, I went out after lunch the day that I was there, one of the days I was there. There was this crowd gathered, and there were all these kids running around. And I thought, what is going on over there outside of this hotel? And it was a farmer selling milk and dairy.
Yeah.
Swarmed.
Well, we'll have that in Salt Lake City. There is a company that has a big van that sells raw milk, and they go around and sell raw milk.
I loved it. It was the happiest gathering of people, and there were no people on cell phones. And this was 50 people. It was amazing. It just made my heart sing. So speaking of farms and farmers, I'd like to dive into your farm. Can you tell us what inspired you to start this venture and more about?
Well, I don't know if it's inspiration. I would call it insanity. But when my parents died, I could have left the little money I received in the bank, or I could have done something with it. And my husband had been a dairy farmer, so we bought a piece of land in southern Maryland, and we started with raw cheese, which was legal then. And then a little bit later, we were able to get the raw milk permit for pet milk. So we do raw cheese, and the whey from the cheese goes to the pigs, old-fashioned way. And we have pigs, layers, meat birds, and turkeys. And then we sell raw milk and raw cream for pets.
Wonderful. Happy pets, just like Travis the Newfoundland. I love it.
Right.
And do you all, is it mostly focused on local? Do you ship?
We only ship full wheels of cheese. Everything else is local.
Cheese party. Cheese lab, right? How long?
We have enough business locally to do that. We do a couple of farmers markets, and then we have an on-farm store.
So you're not just preaching it, you're actually living it.
Yeah, try to anyway.
How rare. So I'm curious, what has for you been on the flip side here, one of the most rewarding things and one of the most challenging things about operating a farm?
Well, the rewarding thing is to see people come in the store, and people with children, and happy, healthy children. That's the rewarding thing. I think the frustrating thing is it's very difficult to make money with a farm. And I've definitely tempered my enthusiasm now. I tell people don't start a farm unless you have resources, a source of income, other resources, because if you have nothing, you won't make it.
Right. So it's more of if someone's interested in getting into that and comes to you, they need to have this as what one would call now
And
maybe.
those resources may be they already have a farm,
Right.
they already have a dairy farm, they just switched to raw, which we're seeing in Maryland, which is very interesting. We're seeing some real diehard anti-raw milk people start to sell raw milk because they
Is
make
that
more
a
money on it.
demand-based
Pardon
switch?
me?
Is that a demand-based switch?
Yes, there's a real demand for it. And then I guess a lot of influencers have been talking about raw milk, and I mean, the demand is huge.
That's wonderful. More one at a time, right?
Mm.
So what's something that I haven't asked you that you would think that Nourishment Mindset listeners should think about now? It could be a current topic, it could be anything, really, Sally.
Well, we haven't talked about broth.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Let's get into
I lived in
some of this.
France. I took cooking classes in France. I grew up in a family of Francophiles. When Julia Child's book came out, it was just like the greatest thing that ever happened. Um, and I would say that French cooking is based on two things. One is broth-based reduction sauces, and two is creme fraiche. Those are the two key factors in French cooking. And so my mother was from the South, and she always made chicken broth. And she said, it's good for you. It's good for your skin. So I always did eat chicken broth, but it's been fun to popularize it and see people drinking it for health reasons.
Absolutely. And to me, it's so easy to make. It uses
Yeah,
the
it
whole
is.
animal again.
Yeah.
And then you have something to sip on or make your sauces.
Yes.
It's one of those.
And now we all have freezers, so we can keep it in
Exactly.
the freezer. Yeah.
It's a change that you make and you say, why haven't I been doing this for years?
Right.
No one taught me to.
Well, when my kids were, I had 4 children and I had a big rambunctious family and a budget. I mean, I was kind of strapped. And it was soups that saved us. We'd have this is kind of a French way of doing things, actually. We'd have a big meal on Sunday, a leg of lamb or roast chicken or whatever. And the bones went in the pot afterwards, and we had to have soup 2 or 3 nights a week. And that's what the French do.
Mm-hmm.
They have soup, and it just saves so much money, and it's nourishing and filling.
And not too heavy for that evening meal either.
Yeah, right.
So curious, let's get back to butter, because you said that's if you're going to do two things, one of the things you need to do is butter. Can we hone in? Because I mean, I grew up with the dietary fat is evil. It took me years to give myself permission to eat butter. My life has
I've had a lot of people tell me that. I was fortunate. My mother always used butter. She was she could be kind of snooty, and she was very sneering about margins and shortenings and stuff. She would never use those things. Well, she did use shortening for the pies because she thought that lard was kind of white trash kind of stuff.
Sure.
But she always used butter. And so I never used anything else. And when this push to get you not to eat butter started and the low fat diet and everything, nobody was going to make me eat this stuff. It's just so disgusting. And then I read Dr. Price's book in 1974, and I realized that they were completely wrong, and that if you want your children to be healthy, they need these fats. They need a rich diet. So I just continued the way I was already cooking.
Thank goodness, because I will tell you, it's no surprise. I wrote about it in my book, The Nourishment Mindset. I've talked about it on the podcast, but I actually in part blame having a serious eating disorder on the whole low fat craze.
Oh, I think so, because what happens, you try to be good, you try to be on this diet and you starve yourself, and then after a while, your body is so starving for fats that you binge. You go to the
Precisely.
freezer and take a half a gallon of ice cream out and eat it all at the same time, standing up, you know. You're just so craving for fats. And I always say, if you eat a tablespoon of butter with every meal, you won't crave that ice cream and you'll save money. It'll be less expensive than the ice cream. You won't want to eat the ice cream.
And so therefore you don't need Ozempic either, right?
But that stuff is making people go blind.
I
And
did.
what that tells you is it's depleting vitamin A.
Bingo.
And where do we get vitamin A? The best source is butter.
Yeah. I share that message that I learned from you all with people all the time, because I see it. I saw it a lot in obese patients that have the whole, just like someone with an eating disorder that I had in my teen years, that self-shame
Yes.
cycle because they can't stick with it. And so I talk a lot about the brain. It's not
Yes.
that you're weak, it's that your brain needs nutrients. So thank goodness you're binging in a way. It's
Yeah.
keeping you alive.
Well, if you're binging on the right things.
Right.
But and I live out in the country. It's not very sophisticated out here. And I see people we have these tubs that are huge of spreads. And I see people taking these, putting them in their carts. And they're all fat.
Yeah.
None of them is thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The link between the brain and the fats and the right kinds of fats.
Yeah.
It's not just the eating disorders out there, whether it be the eating disorder of starvation and binging, or just over consuming nutrients because you're not absorbing and you're not getting enough, but also other mental health disorders, right?
Well, one of the fats that's exclusively in animal fats, you can't get this fat anywhere, is called arachidonic acid. And we need arachidonic acid to make our own endogenous marijuana. So we make endocannabinoids. We have receptors for them all over the body. They are extremely important for our immune system, but they're mainly important for making these feel-good chemicals. And if you're not eating animal fats, you're going to feel terrible. You don't feel happy, you feel depressed, and then you get addicted to something, sugar, alcohol, marijuana, something. Because your body cannot make these feel-good chemicals that it can only make out of animal fats.
And that's, to me, when I want to bring a thread through what I've learned from the Weston A. Price Foundation, is that it all is almost brought back to its most basic level. Like, it's not fighting with the body, it's harmonizing with your body.
It's giving the body what it needs. And when the body has got what it needs, when it's truly nourished, and I don't mean just fed, but nourished, it works perfectly. You're not depressed, you're happy. I like to say the natural state of the human being is to be high all the time.
And nourished, right?
Nourished, yeah. So relaxed, but it's motivated. You're motivated, but you're also relaxed. The problem with taking marijuana from on the outside is it relaxes you, but it also demotivates you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Content, right? That's what I'm striving for in my son. Content. Yeah. Calm and content.
Yeah.
And a little silly. That's good.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So I always end my interviews by asking guests about their favorite tableside traditions. So in my family, it's very simple, but I've heard all kinds of answers, from mom's Persian cooking to you can only imagine. In my family, it's literally raising a glass every night. To me,
that's nice.
Critically important to sit at a table and eat. And it's, one thing, when I had an eating disorder, there were no pleasures of the table. It took me in the wine and food industry for me to realize how convivial, how important it is to sit at a table. So what is your favorite?
Well, I grew up, we had dinner every night, and it was the high point of my day. My dad came home. He was a great raconteur, and we had a wonderful time at the table. And my mother was a good cook. So it's like the epitome of life on earth. That's what it's all about, really. And I was saying this at a talk once, how important family meals were. And this man came up to me afterwards and he said, when I grew up, what dinner was recriminations. I was always put down. I was always being scolded at the table in front of everybody else. And he said, I cannot eat with other people. I have to eat alone. Isn't that a sad thing?
Very sad.
So it's very important that these family meals be pleasant. So I always say no unpleasant talk at meals, no recriminations, no scoldings. That's not the time you do it. It's not fair to the children and to anybody.
Right. So for you,
for me, it's just sitting down to a delicious dinner with my family. Yeah.
It's the simple things, and I feel like our culture, just that connection time. We're a baseball family, so it gets really challenging during the nearly year-round baseball. There's a meme out there. You can eat dinner at 4:30 or 9:30.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, all right.
But we
Well, we've watched baseball games while we're eating.
I refuse to do fast food. I see all the other families around me after the game doing fast food. My son says, well, now he knows. It doesn't even ask, but we'll just eat something before, and then we'll have something a little too late, and oh well, that'll be excellent. Well, Sally, thank you so much for your time, but more importantly, what you and the foundation are doing. It truly, we've had politicians talk about hope in the past, but I personally, especially during the whole COVID whole thing, receiving your journal, listening to the podcast, Hilda does a wonderful job, listening to you come on and review some of the fundamentals, which you do sometime. It kept me sane during.
Oh, thank you. You're not the only person who's told us that it was really like a beacon during COVID. And we had a lot of articles about COVID explaining what really caused it and keeping people off these terrible shots. So thank you. So meanwhile, for your new listeners, it's westonaprice.org and realmilk.com. And please consider becoming a member. It's only $40 and joining our family.
Yes, it is a wonderful family, and I learn so much every issue, every podcast. It's an honor to have you. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you're doing, because it brings.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my lady.
Okay.
Shall I say santé?
Yeah, santé, à bientôt.
Et à bientôt. Parfait.